Today at Tulsa County Health Department, we are reporting an additional 96 Tulsa County residents who have tested positive for COVID-19, which is a new record for a daily increase throughout this response. We have a cumulative total of 1,825 people who have tested positive for COVID-19 in Tulsa County. The good news around that is 1,166 of those people have recovered. Sadly, 64 residents have died. And please join me in sending condolences to their families.
I think it is very important. We haven't had one of these in a while. I think it's really important to talk for a moment about where we are right now versus where we were in mid-March. We faced a situation there in early March where we had a new virus that had arrived in our community to which no one was immune. We were, just by luck of geography, we had about a week and a half of seeing how cities on the coasts handled the arrival of that virus before it really started to spread in our community. Our hospital systems, when I talked with doctors and physicians there, what I heard from them was that they did not have the protocols and the equipment in place to handle a virus like coronavirus when there was an entire city that wasn't immune to it, and there was real concern about that virus overwhelming our local healthcare system. There was a point when we initiated restrictions as a community where one of our hospital systems was down to less than a week of protective equipment for their staff. We locally initiated drives for companies and individuals to donate protective equipment so that we could give it to our hospital workers, because there was such a concern locally that they would run out and not be able to serve those most in need. There was a real fear about running out of beds. There was a real fear about running out of ventilators. And with all of that concern in mind, we recognized that we had to do something in this community which, to my knowledge, we have never had to do before, except in isolated instances in very localized geography, which is put in place restrictions on gathering, on how many people can gather, and eventually escalating all the way to shelter in place for our city. And because we were being smart in that first month of reopening, we saw levels that reflected that. I think the increase in numbers that you see right now is, as Dr. Dart mentioned to the City Council this morning, and I would agree with it, is that you've seen a relaxation in that vigilance by everyday people. And we have 1 million people in this metro area who are going through this reopening process every day. I think it would be a real tragedy if we ended up focusing on an event with 20,000 people that'll happen for 4 hours over the weekend and not talk about what 1 million people are doing every single day in this community. And so what I would ask Tulsans, as you see these numbers continue to increase, stop and ask yourself, when I go to the store, how many people do I see wearing a mask in the store? If you're like me, it's maybe 10 or 20% of the people in that store. Well, if Tulsans are not willing to take that kind of responsibility to protect one another, then don't be surprised when you see your numbers increase. We have a responsibility to protect each other through this, through responsible behavior in our daily lives, not pointing the finger at protests over a couple of weeks or pointing the finger at a rally that's going to occur either on Friday night or on Saturday afternoon. This is about what we do in our daily lives every day. That has a far greater impact on what we're going to see from our COVID counts in this community. Speaking of this weekend, first, I am excited for our community to celebrate Juneteenth. I think there is a greater awareness and interest in that event this year than I've seen in my lifetime, which is a wonderful thing for Tulsa. And I hope that Tulsans, if you want to go to one of these events and you feel that it's safe to go to, that you do that. If you want to celebrate digitally, I hope that you do that. But this is one of the most important days in the history of our country, and I'm so grateful that there is an increased awareness here in Tulsa of its importance and a desire to celebrate it. And I want to thank the folks who are working hard to pull together commemorations of that in our community, both on Friday but also over the weekend. And then, of course, we have the President's visit on Saturday. You know, when we've been through what we've been through as a country through this pandemic, and you think about what cities all around America have done this year through restricting individual activity, by putting shelter-in-place orders in place, the work that local communities all over our country have done is greater than anything that I can think of that we've done. Even at the height of the Cold War, you never saw Americans across our country sheltering at home for months at a time. And so for us to have gone through that as a country, and then have the President of the United States pick this city as the city that he wants to come to highlight that we handled it the right way and that Tulsans are handling reopening the right way, I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, that's a tremendous honor for our city to be highlighted in that way.